Okay, so when I first heard about people with frozen shoulder, I hadn't known how complicated it was, and I still don't. But I remember one day I'm walking with my best friend. We decided to meet up, and we decided to do about a 10-mile walk to his house. And I remember that I was trying to express to him that I had this ability. Now, I have a short-term memory sometimes, I think, because I I try not to tell anybody about my ability. And this was in 2017. And in 2017, we're walking, and I don't know, something got into me, and I wanted to tell somebody because it's like a secret. So I started telling him everything I've ever done. And I saw that look like the person, he had known me for maybe 5 or 6 years, about off and on. Nobody ever really knew me before. He was the closest person to trust to talk to me. Everybody could always see something weird in me. And we're walking, and I said, I had all this ability. And he invited me into his house. And this was the first time, I got to say, anybody's ever invited me into their house. And so I didn't even know how to behave. I just sat in there, and he said, you know, he kind of said that this were just stories. And I said, yeah, that's what everybody thinks. And he said, told me about his shoulder. And I was like, well, okay, that's easy. And he looked at me like I had said something silly or stupid. And I remember like, oh, that's not a problem at all. And he says, no, I heard it da years ago. And maybe I don't have the story completely right, but I said it's okay, whatever. And so I said, can you give me a minute? I need to get ready to build up the energy. And of course, I had told him that I didn't want to touch a computer or a phone because when I build up the energy, things break. He didn't believe me. So while I was getting ready to go warm up, he decides to turn his phone on me. He turns it on to recording because I have this mantra, this chant that I do to remind myself that I'm putting in all my energy and all my effort. And then he comes over to me. He stands straight, and for 1 hour, I put my hand, not touching him. I try not to touch people. Sometimes it does, but normally what happens is when I stick my hand up, people levitate to my hand. If I move it, their body follows it, and they'll start doing this waving sensation. And he could feel the heat, even though I wasn't touching him. And I just kept asking him, lift your arm up and down, lift it up and down. And he did. And slowly but surely, the pain went away. Now, of course, that was no big deal to me. I knew it was going to happen. So there was no problem. It was just a simple thing, frozen shoulder, whatever. And he laughed about it. We joked, and then he sat down. But as soon as I got near his computer, he moved it aside. So I knew that he believed, or he was going to believe. But then he checked his recording on his phone, and all he got was static. It was just like that. So then I really caught his attention. But of course, days later, he tested it. He decided, because he is my best friend, he's always been my best friend, just didn't understand me at that time because of my ability. And he realized that all these tall tale stories that I had been given, he realized that I had been lowering the value of the story so people didn't realize how well, and he said this, how really well I can do things. He got so excited, he documented everything for 6 weeks. Then he documented everything for a couple months, for up to 6 months. And every day he did something that he never did before, like push-ups or something like this. And he followed it until his pain was completely gone. He was so positive about my ability after that. He's always been positive ever since that. He when his wife woke up with arm pain, having the same thing that he had, He brought her out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to come and see me at McDonald's just to fix her arm. And when I fixed her arm, she was astounded. And then when she messed it up, he brought her back again. And then after 2 weeks, when she messed it up again, he kept her home until her arm was healed. Because frozen shoulder, when we get full mobility, we tend to want to use it. We want to use it so much that we end up re-breaking all the damage because the body needs time to heal. So after that, he motivated me to just do frozen shoulder. But of course, like anything, when you start off with one specialty, nobody comes for that. And nobody wants it. Somebody wants something else and something else. So then this one day, this guy named D, he comes on the phone and I'm like, okay, well, what do you need help with? He's like, well, my arm. And he explains it to me. And I got so excited. I said, frozen shoulder. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, I'm so excited. It's like, okay, you kind of scare me now. I said, it's okay. We're going to fix your arm today. And he's like, what? He's like, I've had this for 20 years. I said, I don't care. Let's just do it. So I start off working on his shoulder. And as I do, the same pattern, because I've worked with 30, 40, 50 frozen shoulders, the pattern is usually scar tissue or something that feels very rough and kind of like it's tape. So then I feel myself cutting through this tape. And then when I get done with that, the arm can start to move. But then there's this cold feeling in the arm, almost like there's a circulational gap. So then I send this heat down the arm. And of course, this guy named D, he was amazed because he could feel the heat. He looked at me and he said, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm giving you heat. It's like, yeah, but how? I said, I don't know. We'll just keep doing it. So I send the heat from his fingers all the way up and down, just like what I would do with anything that has lack of circulation. And then out of everything else, when his arm was completely feeling good and he gained back some feeling, then I said, are you okay? He's like, he just smiled. And I love it when people do that, when they can't say anything. And they just smile at you and they look like, they're like, I don't know what to say. He said thank you. But at the same time, when he first saw me, this guy D, he was looking at me like anybody else. Like, why am I so desperate to see this weird person who says he's going to send something through the air and make me better? I mean, that's the way people think. And then at the end of it, this guy is laughing more than me. He's just so hysterical about how his arm has changed. And I remember that so much so that he sent me like 3 messages that night just to tell me how happy he was and how much he enjoyed the session and how much it made a difference in his life for him and his little girl.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Michael. That's a fantastic story. You can actually see Dee's palpable emotions through that video. He was so amazed, that's for sure. And just to help explain a couple of things, Michael meets a lot of people at McDonald's, not for the food, but actually to be there in a neutral space to actually help them for delivering these frequencies. And remembering what we're talking about in frequencies here, Michael has got an incredible ability through his meditation processes of gathering all the different frequencies on planet Earth and remembering we are a frequency. Our liver is a frequency, our heart is a frequency, our being is a frequency. And if we weren't a frequency, electromagnetic being, you couldn't do X-rays, you couldn't do ultrasound, you couldn't do any of these things that Western medicine now actually does. And now going back to the frozen shoulder compartment, and in frozen shoulder, we have chronic inflammation. That's a major driver that's actually affecting the muscles and the connective tissue, the bursa, etc. Then if it actually then goes further and then drives the bone, where the bone now can actually become little nodules or little osteophytes, it now becomes arthritic. That's now oxidative stress. So we've got these two components in there called oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, and they both can basically feed off each other. And generally, something like frozen shoulder is so well known today. And it generally takes a couple of years to really get over it. You talk to anyone who goes through the normal processes. Some people are lucky, it might be 3 months, but most people, it's a rehabilitation of 2 years. So Michael's been able to do this, and he's now been able to do it for thousands of people. And we've seen the turnaround in days, if not weeks. Huge change, huge change. And it's great to see Dee basically so enthusiastic. And hey, I don't know how this works. It was really funny watching him, because a lot of people don't know how it works. They really don't know how it works. But the theme is we have these healing frequencies. We've got terahertz, we've got scalar energy, we've got earthing, Schumann's frequencies. We've got all these frequencies, and we're kind of like a solar panel for these frequencies. And when we're in great health, we receive these frequencies. And what Michael's able to do is tap into these frequencies and then deliver them, whether it be in person or whether it be via Zoom, and whether it be from one part of the world to the other part of the world. And frozen shoulder is something that is second nature to Michael now, because we've seen so many people who have actually now healed from that particular challenge. Thanks, Michael. Thank you for your gifts.
Thank you for your wisdom and guidance.